Pascal Gauthier, the man here above me, is the CEO of Ledger, and he was invited to a podcast. And in that podcast, he did answer questions regarding the idea of Ledger of sharing their seed phrase. And of course, the video today is precisely about that. If you'd like to know what he said and my feedback and what I observed and my thoughts on this video is for you. Hi, welcome to Crypto Vagabonds YouTube channel. In this channel, we talk about cryptocurrencies, geopolitics, macrofinance, and everything else that may affect the performance of your favorite crypto asset. If you like this kind of content, please subscribe to the channel and also click the notification bell. So let's get into the video. Cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin, were designed in a way that is supposed to be trustless. You should not have a trust on a third party. The crypto space only has two laws. Law number one, not your keys, not your crypto. Now the device will be sharing those keys. And I have always had a problem with Ledger because of the second law which they violate. Do not trust, verify. And because of the nature of your code being closed, having closed source, we have to trust that the code is okay. We have to trust that nothing malicious is going to be on the code. Now, whether you should trust or not, my answer is not for myself, but you decide that for yourself. But please continue watching this video because you're going to see from his mouth if you should trust Ledger or not.
But the idea here is that we don't have to trust if we use the tools in certain ways, right? So that I can just say, just literally don't trust me as a...
That's the position that every company wants to be. With the time of COVID in Canada, when Canada started to freeze everybody's account, there was a company in the crypto space that got the request from the authorities to give up or to lock or to freeze people's funds, and the company just said, yes, we wish we could help you, but we cannot because we don't have that data. We do not have that ability. We don't have the seed phrases, and we don't have a way to do that. The intent of our product is to make sure that the individual is sovereign and the individual has control over their funds. Now, Ledger is having this idea that really violates the second principle. And I have said in the past, if they violate one principle, which is transparency, how long would it be before they violate the second one? Now they're proposing to share the seed phrase with third parties. Now, let's listen a bit more to what they say to that.
Company, right? That's my goal. I know it's a little different for you guys. You guys are trying to approach a bigger market, right? That has people who are very new to Bitcoin, and you're trying to make it easy. It's an interesting feature, by the way. I just think that if you're gonna do something like that, and this is my opinion, you know, there is ways to first, like how you describe this to people, you know, which I think is part of the problem of how this whole Twitter sort of thing happened.
No, but the problem is not the way that you describe it. The problem is, you know, the team that we pushed a release that wasn't supposed to be pushed, and
so they pushed an update that was not supposed to be pushed. Should you trust that company? They are admitting themselves. They did not intend to push this update. Is that true? I don't know, but if it is, I personally would not trust a company that push the wrong software on me or the wrong update on me. Now let's listen to this a little bit more.
Users discovered the feature with a firmware upgrade, which is unpleasant at best, you know.
So they push the software wrongly on the wrong time, and their users are the one that notice. Let's continue listening to this.
Because then the content to explain what it wasn't ready. So for a few hours, there was just that push, and people were like, which is what created the FUD actually, because people were like, oh shit, you know,
but there's also
this is coming online. No one told me anything, and so what are these guys doing? The normal way of communication should have been, this is the product, this is how it works, and by the way, we're pushing it next week or something like that, which was the original plan. So there was a fuck up not even in terms of communication, but in terms of sequencing of the release of the product. This is what created the FUD.
So they cannot organize things to go in the right order.
By the way, all of this is optional. You don't have to use it.
Of course. But now my question is, you know, you do have now the seed sort of sharded, right? Between these parties, right? And they are essentially unencryptable without the user, right? It's kind of the whole point. So, you know, is it a concern now that you have third parties that could have access to customer funds without them authorizing that if they collude?
The concern is really a good concern. So now you're going to have clients, seed phrase, they call sharding. In truth, that is shamir. They're dividing the seed phrase into 3 different pieces, and any 2 pieces would be enough to give full recovery of those funds. The issue is the clients do not know who those 3 parties are, and you only need 2 parties to collude in order for them to be able to access your funds. And there's a few more risks, but listen to what he says a bit further.
You know, we're talking about, like, you know, the realm of what sort of possible, and
Yes.
you know, the worst case scenarios, etc.,
Yes.
etc. Like in the 99% of the cases, you know, there is no collusion that is really possible between the three entities.
I think his data is wrong. In 99% of the cases, there will be a collusion. Delegated centralized custody has been abused 100% of the time in history. We see the US freezing funds from different nations. We see confiscation of money. My case in particular, I was in Brazil. One day the entire population woke up and their bank accounts were empty. The government emptied everybody's accounts. So every single time it has happened. So let's continue.
Entities, and you know, the way that this is built, but we've released a lot of content. The way that this is built, like, you know, you can only only the user can sort of call back the three shards.
That's a lie. If those collude, they will be able to get the seed phrase.
Coinbase had all their customer data subpoenaed by the
Yes.
IRS.
John Doe.
Yeah, and so they had to supply every customer. Was it over $10,000 or 20,000?
20,000.
20,000.
Over a 3-month rolling period.
And they gave all.
And Coinbase fought back because they wanted, I think,
did.
3,000.
But Coinbase is a bank. This is not.
So they say, don't worry because Coinbase is a bank. We're not a bank. In the end, you are. If you are holding people's keys, if you have access to their funds, you are a bank.
Not a banking service. Okay, so it's very different.
But it's what I'm saying is the IRS wanted that information. If something
There is no
like,
information for the IRS on this.
Well, you do have XPubs, but you had them before too on Ledger Live, right?
I mean, there is no real information for the IRS on this, etc. And by the way, like, you know, again, this is there will be trade-offs in the future.
Yeah.
So, like, we're not saying that you know, if you're uncomfortable with this, you can keep your 24 words and, you know, keep doing what you're doing today. This doesn't change anything. Okay, doesn't change anything. Doesn't create a backdoor. We can come back on open source, not open source, but
So it does change things. He knows his audience will be listening to this, and he's lying to them again. It does change a lot. It changed so much that by the time I'm shooting this video, they already went back. So trust has been shaken, and he's not being honest to his audience.
The issue is not maliciousness from you, right? You want to grow a business. The issue is always, you know, you have a rogue employee, you have a, you know, a state actor that embeds in the company. These things happen, and it happened
but
in the
that's not
security
possible.
industry
In the
a
way
lot.
that we've explained this, in the way that we build the firmware, like, you can't have not one person control the firmware. So not one.
So if not one person controls the firmware, good. That means the entire team made a mistake. The entire Ledger team, or at least more than one person or several persons, have to agree with the mistake of pushing the upgrade before time without there's any communication with the public.
One person can put rogue code into the firmware. No one can actually tell us what to do with the firmware.
So you say the only problem is if you get subpoena, and then you say no one can tell you what to do with the firmware. Again, we're going to have to trust Ledger because, again, this thing of the closed code, I have always been against closed code precisely for that reason. You have to trust that there's nothing wrong with it.
Unless, you know, we go to jail, but, you know, that's a different thing. By the way, when this happens,
So, again, unless we go to jail, they may have to go to jail if the government comes to them and asks them for the data on their clients the same way that the institutions went, or the IRS went after Coinbase.
like, let's say that suddenly the French government decide that, okay, Ledger no more, and so now we're gonna control the firmware, etc. By the time that this happens, then, you know, there would be a message out there to say to all of our customers, move your funds away from Ledger. If you
So he's saying if the government comes and say they will have time to react, again, in Canada there was no time.
the beauty of self-custody is that in the end you're free. So, you know, when people are complaining about Ledger, I think, okay, it's customer is king, so people should complain, okay, and there's no problem. We're here for that. And so whatever customers say, you know, sort of goes. We have to understand what they're saying and then try to sort of do better education, better communication, etc. And when we fuck up, which is what we did when we leaked the data, we fucking apologize. We
So he said that they have leaked data in the past, but now what he wants to do is not only collect clients' data, but he wants to collect customer data and attach that data to the seed phrase. So you got hacked before on your customers' data. Now you think the solution for that is to collect even more data, KYC from your clients, connect that KYC data with their seed phrase, and then distribute that not just with you, but 3 other parties, and then be vulnerable to a government to come and subpoena you. I don't think this is wise. I don't think this is secure.
say nothing and we try to fix the problem. Like, we're not saying, oh, we don't care. Of course we care. Like, you know, we care actually very deeply. But the problem that is at stake right now, and this is why, you know, we should keep our eyes on what is the most important for the industry. What is the most important for the industry is to get 100 million users that are already in the space into the safety of self-custody. Whether it's your product, my product, etc., is better than what they did.
But it is not self-custody if they're sharing their seed phrase. That is share custody. What you're doing is you're giving the custody of all your clients to very centralized companies that has to obey government.
again, like we're treating this as if this was a new problem. This is not a new problem. Most users that do crypto today have already done a KYC.
I agree with him. Most users today have done KYC, but it is a new problem because, again, you are now connecting customer data with seed phrases, which was never there before. KYC has been done to clients to acquire crypto on the exchange. Now he's saying, okay, give up the exchange, which I think is a great idea, put everything on Ledger, and then give us your seed phrase and your KYC data connected to your seed phrase, and trust us and all these two other companies that everything's going to be okay. I will say this is not better, at least not in my opinion, and I don't think it's better because of the way it was implemented. What is better is to educate people and make ways for them to be self-custodian, not ways for them to have to share their seed phrases with companies that did not know and have companies holding large amount of seed phrases, large amount of value.
But you can decide what's best for you, actually.
But
We cannot freeze funds. You understand? We cannot freeze your funds.
So help me understand it, because I think this is, at least for me, is the critical piece to understand most clearly. Let's say I lose it and I want to get my 24 words back. How does that work across the 3 vendors that you guys have contracted with to get my 24 words back?
Oh, so to get your 24 hours back, you re-KYC yourself, you present your identity, and that triggers a cryptographic process that brings back the shards onto your device.
Great. So now that
So it's being cryptographed by your data and your KYC. Now remember, I just mentioned that AI is already able to do that. AI and deepfake can pretend to be you on some KYC process. So if that database is somewhere, they don't have to hack the seed phrase. All they need to hack is your KYC database, which, by the way, Ledger has already been hacked in terms of database in the past.
Department of Justice calls you and says, we are charging so-and-so with X, Y, and Z. Get 2 of your vendors to send us the Bitcoin keys.
Yeah, I mean,
You need all 3.
Now, he is another bomb. Odell thought it was required to have all 3. Listen to this.
No, you need two or 3.
so
Oh, shit, so you only need 2 people to
They can ask us,
Even
and then we
worse.
can ask our partners, and our partners can say no. So that's the first thing. And usually they ask, because I discussed this with my lawyers, like, what is realistic in that scenario? Because if we say it like that, we make it sound like it's very easy for any government to subpoena anyone for any reason, etc. It's not true. They can subpoena.
It is true. And listen to this.
It's not true.
So I was, Canada, lived there. We just had this insanity that happened during COVID. Out of no fucking where.
And we ship devices, actually.
The country just decided.
Through Peter?
Yeah.
No, but seriously, the country just decided that, like, let's just suspend civil liberties here and freeze people's bank accounts and do whatever the fuck we want.
Yep.
So it does happen. Listen, I think.
But man, I'm okay with that. Like, I agree with you.
So he's okay with that.
Like, I don't disagree.
So-
I'm not trying to be difficult, but I'm saying if I live in Canada, okay, there is a fair concern that.
I know, and Macron and Trudeau love each other. So.
I follow you here. So if you feel that's a real possibility, I would actually say do not use the product.
So
Basically, what he's saying is, if you do think your government can subpoena, and if you're afraid of your government violating or extending their rights over your assets, do not use the product. And here's where I want to wrap it up and give my thoughts to you. I do believe a product like this may have a space in the market. The way to do this, in my opinion, is the following. You announce way ahead of time, and you say you're going to create one device. You're going to create a new device, different than the other device. You honor your word on the other device, saying that the seeds can never be extracted, which you now believe is a lie, but let's assume that was true. What you do is you keep the older device the way you promised them to remain and to be at the time that your clients bought that one specific device. But the thing is, you want to make a device that is very different, at least in color, from the other ones, and you want to make sure that that device comes with a warning, communicating clearly to your clients what are they doing, what are the risks, what are the trades-off of them not being sovereign or not being the custodian of the assets. You do not change the contract that you previously enter with your clients, changing everything on upgrade and saying, now it's optional, you don't have to upgrade. What if 3 years from now, the upgrade that I have in the past does not work anymore? So the way to do this is to create one new device with a new firmware and make sure that you communicate way ahead of time, and with the purchase of the device, communication, like the guy say 50 times over, letting your clients know what are they getting when they get a device. That is my opinion about this. I want to know now, what are your opinions? What are your thoughts? Please let me know on the comments below. There's a few things that I will be investigating about other wallets and bringing this here to you guys. For now, please do like, subscribe, and click the notification bell. And if you do know someone who can benefit from this video, please do share this video. See you guys next video. Thank you.